told Harpo to beat me.
It's gonna rain on your head.
You're black as tar, nappy-headed. Got legs like baseball bats.
Sitting in that jail down here about done robbed to death.
Hey, Harpo! Hey!
Is there something the matter with you?
I done fixed that mailbox so I can tell if it be messed with. You understand?
I got me too trouble. I love Harpo. God knows I do. But I kill him dead.
Chris Miles here, and I'm about to bring you 10 things you didn't know about the movie The Color Purple. Y'all, it is such a pleasure to do this movie. Y'all, it's one of the greatest films ever made. One of the first major movies made by all predominantly black cast. This is a story about a woman named Celie, who grows up being abused by her stepfather. She's forced into marriage to a man that she barely even knows. And as a victim of domestic violence, he abuses her for most of her life and chases her away from her sister, the only person who actually loves her. She meets 2 other women that come into her life. These women inspire her because they take a stand for themselves and defend themselves, and not afraid to show the world that their lives are better for it. So after Celie finds some inspiration from these ladies and gets some hope that she can reunite with her sister, she finally does what she has to do, take a stand for herself, and she gains her self-esteem.
Until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble.
So this movie is about women's empowerment and redemption. And even though this is a man's world, you have to love yourself enough to protect yourself and take a stand for yourself, and your life is going to be better for it. The film is based on a best-selling book by Alice Walker. The book was so popular, it just had to be adapted into a film. And you know, Quincy Jones did the music score, and he pretty much produced it and helped everything. Quincy Jones also brought on probably the best part of the project, Steven Spielberg, his first serious film. Alright y'all, let's just go on and get into it. From least to greatest, 10 things you didn't know about the movie The Color Purple. Before we begin, we will ask the big question. Hi, and now it's time for the big question. If The Color Purple did a remake with an all-white cast, who would star in it? Well, I'm on location here by the antique store that was used throughout the film when Celie was young, and then when Sophia and Miss Millie went there when they were a little bit older. So I'm fortunate that the owner is going to allow me in, so come on, let's come check it out. Now I'm inside the store where all the general store scenes were shot. And man, it's so cool being here because I've always seen it on TV, but it is now an antique shop called Southern Indigo Porch. You guys ought to come by here and grab some of these antiques.
Better come down here, get some of this.
There's a lot of good stuff in this store. I know I'm going to shop here just to say I bought stuff from the place that The Color Purple was filmed, and I want to hang it up, going to grab some stuff for my mom and my aunt. So y'all come by here and grab y'all some of this stuff in Marshfield. So, with the big question, if they were to make a Color Purple remake with an all-white cast, who would star in it? Stay tuned to the end of the video and we'll go over that.
You gonna buy anything or not, boy?
Number 10. The book was semi-pornographic.
You better not never tell nobody but God. It'll kill your mammy.
One of the first things I noticed was the book was slightly different from the film, which most film adaptations are, but when I saw the vulgarity of the words in the book, I was kind of surprised.
Dad, can you read us a story?
Okay kids, I want to read y'all a book of this movie I used to watch when I was about y'all's age. Now I'm going to read the book for y'all. It's called The Color Purple, starring Celie, her sister Nettie, and mean old Mr. Albert. So, my Okay. Let me just revamp that, and we're gonna put that on for later. Let's do something else for now. Number 10. How Spielberg changed his mind about directing the film. Before production, Steven Spielberg felt very insecure about directing the film. His initial response to Quincy Jones was no. Spielberg felt that his knowledge of the Deep South was inadequate, and that his film should have been directed by someone of color, who could at least relate to the struggles faced by many blacks living in the Old South. Then Quincy Jones said, "No, I want you to do it. Besides, did you have to be an alien to direct E.T.?" Spielberg appreciated Q's logic, and he decided to accept the offer as the film director. Spielberg then got busy. He did his homework. He started studying old black Southern living and juke joints. Steven cites how The Color Purple was his first serious film, and that he would not have been able to do like Empire of the Sun and Schindler's List without the stepping stone that was this film. Number 9. The lesbian scene. Steven Spielberg admits that his greatest mistake in directing this film was his lack of courage portraying the lesbian relationship between Celie and Suge.
What you staring at? Never seen a naked woman before?
At the time of filming, Spielberg feared that overt sexuality between the two characters would alienate audiences, a decision he now regrets. So for the duration of the movie, any sexual chemistry between the two is only subjective and not really put on full display. But me personally, I'm kind of in favor of the way Spielberg did it. I mean, we didn't need to see all that. We know what happened. I mean, at the most, I would have had him maybe like kissing and kind of like gravitate to like actually leaning on the bed. You know, but that's all it needed. We didn't need any more distractions from the movie. Let's just stay on focus. Okay.
But it's like, you know, that's 1984. Nobody was going to let me and Suge make out. They just weren't. One kiss is all you get.
You sure is ugly.
Number 8. The Color Purple was filmed in one summer. The movie was filmed in the summer of 1985. Think about that. Think about all the long sleeve clothes and all the snow that you saw. Yes, the film was done in the summer. The scenes were shot in ever-changing North Carolina weather, but the story takes place in rural Georgia. One of the tricks they did was they put dirt all over some of the paved roads to make the film look more in the 1920s. All the shots that you saw that was in the snow, they didn't use fake snow. They used Epsom salt. Yes, they took about 2 days and they just sprayed Epsom salt all over the land, over the houses, but it worked. I never knew that till I done my research on the movie that they actually used salt and made it look like it was snowing outside. But again, it was in the middle of the summer. Cool. And get this, they ran into another problem. They planted a bunch of flowers in the fields to be purple flowers. But when the flowers bloomed, it turned out to be more pink than purple. So this was before they had all these digital effects. You know, this was back in the 80s, so they actually couldn't change the color. They had to go and paint the pink flowers purple. So they took a couple days just to go around painting all the flowers purple to make them look more purple. Number 7. Quincy Jones discovered Oprah. Quincy Jones pretty much discovered Oprah. He saw her as a local anchor on a TV show in the city of Chicago. When he saw her, he said, "That's my Sophia."
Around in the hotel and turned on the television set, and here comes Miss Winfrey, real, honest, and true, and it's all over. My baby.
And I was discovered!
My baby.
As this film was produced by Quincy, at one time, Quincy and Spielberg got into a shouting match because Quincy felt like Spielberg wasn't utilizing Oprah enough. The problem was that, being accustomed to the talk show format on AM Chicago, Oprah often looked directly into the camera during her scenes, a habit that both amused and frustrated Steven Spielberg during the early stages. Another example, when Sophia is pistol whipped by the sheriff, she's supposed to be knocked out. But when the wind blows her dress up, Oprah briefly breaks character and tries to fix her wardrobe malfunction, to no avail. Somehow the goof made it on the final cut. He also noted that Oprah constantly thought she was going to get fired and be replaced. But he didn't tell her that her job was safe because he felt like she would lose her motivation. This problem came to an end at the dinner table scene. Sophia's speech at the dinner table was an ad-lib prompted by Steven Spielberg in the middle of filming the scene. He asked Winfrey to express to Celie how she felt that day she saw Celie in the store as Sophia was shopping for Miss Millie. At the dinner scene, Oprah Winfrey ad-libbed all her lines, which if you didn't know, ad-libbing means that you're going to just make it up as you go along.
Sat in that jail down there about done rot to death. When I seen you, I know there is a God, and one day I was gonna get to come home.
That's the day I got it. That was the day I became an actress. Whoopi got up from the table. Steven came over and hugged me. Everybody started applauding because everybody else also knew that I'd broken the fear barrier for myself.
After that, Spielberg purposely added more scenes for Oprah's character. Number 6, the music. Quincy Jones is credited as the music scorer. He did a fantastic job. Given that he was also the producer of the movie, he only had 2 months after filming to come up with the music score. He could take credit for most of it, but not all of it. Quincy Jones was advised by several people in the music industry, including his good friend Michael Jackson, who regularly appeared on the set, believe it or not. Not only that, but he also utilized his secret weapon, a guy named Rod Temperton. Now you may not know who Rod Temperton is, but you've heard his music. Rod Temperton was the songwriter and a band member of the group Heatwave. Temperton was the guy that wrote for you Boogie Nights, Always and Forever, and my favorite, The Groove Line.
All the songs on Heatwave's first LP were written and composed by our organ player. Banging the right on.
Though Temperton wrote songs for more people like Shaka Khan, Michael McDonald, James Ingram, Tamia, he wrote so many hits, but he's more known for writing the hits for Michael Jackson. The story pretty much goes like this, oversimplified. Heatwave approached him with an opportunity to produce for them, but Quincy was too busy. He did say, however, he was a fan of their music and would love for them to write him some songs. Quincy was then shocked. He thought the songwriter was going to be one of the soul brothers in the group. Little did he know that the songwriter was this shy Englishman who played the keyboard that looked nothing like someone that could write all these funky grooves in the 70s as he was doing. So after doing a few things for a few of Quincy's artists, Rod's popularity spiked when he was asked to write some music for Michael Jackson. Rod wrote Off the Wall, Burn This Disco Out, and Rock With You for the Off the Wall album. On the Thriller album, he wrote Lady of My Life, Baby Be Mine, and famously, the song Thriller. Yes, Thriller was written by Rod Temperton. But get this, Off the Wall and Rock With You was originally written for the band's lead singer, Johnny Wilder. Yes, that was supposed to be Johnny Wilder singing I Wanna Rock With You. But, believe it or not, Johnny turned all of those songs down. So, Rod just gave him to Michael Jackson. For the movie The Color Purple, Quincy asked Rod to help him come up with some tunes for the juke joint scene. So Rod ended up writing Miss Celie's Blues. And I'm wondering if that's Rod actually playing the piano on the track.
Whoop, time to go.
Another infamous song that goes with this movie is God's Trying to Tell You Something, written by Andre Crouch, who wrote a lot of gospel hits. Quincy's done a really good job with the score. Now I wish I could play you some of the original music from this movie, but you know, YouTube with their rules gonna be really anal about it, and I ain't trying to violate no copyright laws. So that being said, you guys give me some credit. I come up with a lot of sound-alike songs, and I do so on all my videos, and a lot of people aren't even noticing, and you know, I'll take that as a compliment. I really put my heart into making these videos, so you guys just please like and subscribe. I'm not gonna half-step and give you no mess for no video. So again, thank you for all your support. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Number 5. Alice Walker, the author of the book, hated the movie at first.
It came from spending a lot of time with my grandparents when I was 8. All the stories I'd heard about them were fascinating. Both grandfathers had been horrible. They were batterers. They did terrible things to their children, to their wives. They always had other women.
Alice Walker, the author of the novel, attended the rushes at the end of filming each day. Yet, she was horrified at the final cut of the film, especially what she referred to as like an Oklahoma-type opening scene. I guess she thought, as many people thought, the book was going to be exactly like the movie. She also thought the film in the second half focused too much on Albert's downfall instead of his turning point. However, at the premiere, when she watched the movie with an enthusiastic audience, she changed her mind. Now she says she likes the film very much, but just thinks of it as being very different from her book. Indeed, the film did have its own unique differences from the book. I'll explain that more in detail later. Number 4, the casting. The casting is unique in this film. Not only just being the first A-list movie to star a mostly all-black cast, but it was a lot of first film debuts and a lot of actors and actresses that didn't have the experience working with a high-profile film. The casting credits goes to Reuben Cannon, but also Quincy Jones, Steven Spielberg, and Kathleen Kennedy had a lot to do with the cast. Kathleen Kennedy is now infamous for her role as a producer for the last 3 Star Wars movies, episodes 7, 8, and 9, and infamously blamed for being the one to mess up the series. For Celie's character, Whoopi Goldberg won the part of Celie, the one and only choice to play Celie. She wrote the author, Alice Walker, a letter as a huge fan of the book. Alice was familiar with Whoopi's routine, so she passed on Whoopi's information. Then Spielberg, who was intrigued by her name, Goldberg, asked her to audition. In her audition for Steven Spielberg, she did a comedy act which she developed about E.T. getting stoned and arrested in Oakland, California for possession. The audition was attended by Spielberg's famous friends, including producer Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. And you know Michael Jackson probably thought that E.T. bit was funny. So after she nailed her audition, she most certainly was guaranteed the part of Celie. For Suge Avery's character, Tina Turner was the original choice to play the role of Suge Avery, but she turned it down. But she had a very good reason. She said that Albert reminded her of Ike. She lived Celie's life and didn't want to live through that again. A film about domestic violence is just something she didn't want anything to do with. Lola Falana and Diana Ross turned down the role of Suge Avery. Phyllis Hyman was among considerations. Steven Spielberg heavily pursued Shaka Khan to take on the role of Suge Avery. However, Khan admitted to being too afraid to take the role at the time. Pam Grier was considered for the role of Suge Avery and wrote her own song that she performed during her audition, but it didn't go well with the producers. Patti LaBelle auditioned for the role of Suge Avery, but they weren't very confident in her acting skills. Steven Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy cast Margaret Avery as Suge Avery. Reuben Cannon told her she wasn't right for the part, but he would let her at least meet Spielberg anyway. But when she met him, she reminded Spielberg that they had worked together on another film before. Ironically, it was a small singing part, in which it was important, of course, for whoever was going to play Suge Avery to not only be able to act, but to also sing as well. Now, I don't know how they would have dealt with the acting, but Tina Turner, Shaka Khan, or Patti LaBelle, they would have rocked that juke joint scene. For the role of Sophia, Nell Carter and Jennifer Holliday turned down the role of Sophia. Oprah, just like Whoopi, was a huge fan of the book, but get this. A film adaptation of Alice Walker's novel was so highly anticipated, auditions for the film had to be held under a code name. Oprah got a call saying that Quincy Jones wanted her to audition for a movie called Moon Song.
Are you sure it's not the color purple? He said, no, it's Moon Song.
And of course, as soon as she started auditioning, she got excited because she realized it was the color purple.
Popo, who this one?
Thinking she didn't get the part, after waiting 2 months, Oprah finally gave up and she checked herself into a weight loss camp. which didn't last very long because she finally got a call from Spielberg telling her, "What are you doing at a weight loss camp? Get out of there. We want you to audition again for this role." They told her she had to leave immediately because the role required her to be a heavy person. After auditioning for Spielberg, he told her and he told Will Hugh, the guy who played Harpo, Sophia's husband, at the same time that they both got the role.
All my life I had to fight. I had to fight my daddies, I had to fight my brothers, I had to fight my cousins.
This movie also had an all-star cast that had minor roles in it. You have Ray Don Chong, Adolph Caesar, Lawrence Fishburne, Dana Ivey. You even got Hawthorne James, aka Red from the Five Heartbeats.
Well, I drank your bathwater.
And a lot of others in the mix. James Tillis, the fighting cowboy, played Buster, Sophia's boyfriend. Most people didn't realize that he was a real boxing champion and one of the first to ever go the distance with Mike Tyson. After learning this, I realized how more significant his movie line was.
First time I ever been knocked down without throwing a punch.
At last, I'll talk about the casting of Mr. Albert Johnson. Danny Glover was the one and only choice to play Mr. Albert Johnson.
Good morning.
Spielberg was a fan of his acting. He wanted nobody else. Although Danny was infamous for this role, the success of this film stunted his growth for a while. It was hard for him to get a role because most people still associated him with the Albert character. But we know that all changed with Lethal Weapon and a lot of other movies he started.
Birds.
And this fact brings up my first edition of what I thought when I was a kid. When I was a kid, and I saw Mr. put on his sock and he realized he had a hole in it. Celie snatched his sock off his foot. I thought his toe was still in the sock. When she was sitting there sewing it, I thought I was looking at her sewing around his toe. How'd she just snatch that dude's toe off? Right? When I was a kid, I used to think. But of course, to the black community, Danny Glover will always be Mr.
M-I-S-T-E-R.
Period.
Ain't you got nothing better to do?
Number 3, the Oscar snub.
For The Color Purple, also with 11 nominations, it was a night of the blues, not one single win.
I'll be here all day if I had to break it down, so my explanation will be oversimplified. This caused one of the most controversial moments in the history of the Academy Awards. Until, Chris Rock got smacked and all, but when he received 11 nominations, but did not include Steven Spielberg as Best Director. At the time, it tied another movie for the record of the most Academy Award nominations with 0 wins. Believe it or not, the controversy started with black authors, black filmmakers, black feminists, and the biggest hater of them all was the Coalition Against Blaxploitation, which is pretty much a combination of the SCLC, the National Urban League, and the NAACP.
It's a publicity stunt dreamed up by these NAAC people. Test on alligators, apes, coons, and possums.
Got a lot of from a lot of folks at the NAACP.
Yeah.
How dare Steven Spielberg direct this movie? How Spike Lee? How dare he doesn't know? And then
basically, various people thought that it made black families look bad. Even Farrakhan gave this 2-hour speech on how negative he thought the movie was or whatever. But
Celie, ain't that razor sharpened yet? Get on out here and do me right now. Get on out here.
He said, "Come on here, woman, and shave me." And everybody in the movie is with her when she picks up the razor.
before the movie got a chance to be successful, all this negativity was spiraling around and started by a lot of black people. The Coalition Against Blaxploitation accused the film of perpetuating harmful stereotypes of black men as violent rapists.
I was really pissed off. I thought, well, why didn't you make the movie? John, Spike, he wanted to make the movie. He made the movie.
So by this being one of the first high-profile movies starring predominantly black actors, the white Academy voters weren't used to this controversy, wasn't used to this subject, wasn't used to this problem and issue. So they tried to avoid controversy by not voting any wins for the movie. But that mess backfired on them because it was more controversial afterwards when The Color Purple didn't win anything.
So it goes like this. The film was nominated for 11 Academy Awards, notably for Best Picture, Best Actress with Whoopi Goldberg, and Best Supporting Actress with Oprah Winfrey and Margaret Avery. Also Best Music Score. This is the first film to feature 3 performances by black actors of any gender, which were nominated for Academy Awards. It is also the first film to feature multiple Oscar-nominated performances by black women, and the first film to have 2 black actors of any gender to be nominated in the same category, in this case, the Best Supporting Actresses. This was Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey's acting debuts, so that was one big strike against them. Quincy Jones did the music score, but there are so many other songwriters within his team, he would have to share the credit with them, and that was a strike against them. And the big controversy was Goldberg's loss for the Best Actress Oscar. Whoopi was up against Jessica Lange, Meryl Streep, and Geraldine Page. Whoopi and Geraldine were the only 2 without a win already. It was Geraldine's 8th nomination. If she had lost at the time, she would have been broken a record for the most nominations without a win. Whoopi's performance definitely outshined Geraldine's. But the problem is this. If you haven't noticed by now, the Oscars have an unwritten rule. And that rule is, in most cases, an actor or actress wins by their career of performances, not just the film they are nominated for. For example, Al Pacino and Denzel Washington. Al Pacino was in Scarface and Serpico, but he won the Oscar for The Scent of a Woman. And Denzel also won from Training Day. Neither of the 2 films were all that remarkable. So in the end, after 11 nominations, 11, none of them won any Oscars for their performances in this film. None of them.
The Academy came under some heavy scrutiny for that, and it was highly investigated by a lot of movie critics.
Roger Ebert, the famous movie critic, did his own investigation 2 days later.
I think they messed up a good thing. I mean, I can remember when, in the 80s when I was in elementary school, it was one of the few black movies that my white fellow students knew about. We all liked the movie, and it was a great source of pride for me, So I don't really think it was like a movie about black people. I just think it was a movie about humanity, People around the world could relate to this movie. It's not one of those movies just for black people.
Deep down inside, everybody knew then, and even more so now, that Color Purple was the best movie. That other mess don't even come on regular TV. On a good note, Whoopi Goldberg would eventually win Best Supporting Actress for her role in Ghost in 1990.
Then get this, ironically, the movie that won Best Picture that year was a movie titled Out of Africa. Of all things, Out of Africa. Now, have you seen that movie? It was obviously not better than The Color Purple. If anything, Nettie should have been the one praised for being out of Africa.
Number 2, the separation scene was as real as it gets. The separation scene was one scene that none of the actors and actresses were looking forward to.
He asked Akusa Busea, I guess that's how you say her name, the girl who played Nettie. He said, whatever you do, don't let Danny separate y'all. Whatever you do, don't let him pull y'all apart and separate y'all, no matter what.
And then she said she saw Spielberg talk to Danny privately, presuming telling him the total opposite of what he told her. It seems like a cruel tactic by Spielberg, but really, these instructions were going to bring out the best of this scene. So the physical violence you see on this scene is all real, because Akusa and this Shredder Jackson, who played the young Celie, are doing everything they can not to be separated. When Danny pounded his fist on her hand against the wood, and when he threw the rock at her, it was not in the script. At the moment, Danny Glover improvised, and they say when he hit her hand, it really hurt. Pretty bad. Steven Spielberg made sure they only took one take per setup. Spielberg didn't want them to have to go through the same shot twice. When Nettie lifts her hands in the air and says why, that was not scripted either. Pretty much everything you see in this scene is pure, raw emotion. And it was said that all of the actors and actresses seemed to be pretty disturbed at the end of the scene.
When I was a kid, totally not understanding what's going on, I used to laugh when Celie got drugged going down the steps.
I'm holding her feet
and he's pulling down the stairs, right? And they would put pads on. They tried their best, but each bump, the pad would just like move out the way. No matter how much they patted me.
I mean, I used to think, oh man, it looks so real. But now I understand why, because of the way they conducted that scene. They were really trying not to separate. That's why, everything on that scene looks so real. Now that I'm older, and the sad parts get to me a whole lot more because I'm grown and have kids and a family, and it's like I couldn't imagine none of this going on in real life. So it really gets to you.
There was nothing left. That movie took him away.
Losing my marriage to Peggy after 14 years was like having my arteries ripped out. I lost a woman I thought I'd live with for the rest of my life.
Is there anything that you think that you've tried to do that you didn't succeed at?
Marriage.
Number 1, the book versus the movie. There are several key differences of the book and the movie. As we've seen countless times, film adaptations can be a lot different. Books and movies are two totally different mediums. That's why Spielberg decided to slightly differ from the acclaimed novel. But yet, he wanted to stay true to Alice Walker's powerful message about overcoming adversity. As stated before, the foul language in the book would have surely given the film an R rating. Another key difference is in the romantic relationship of Celie and Suge. The film shows the lesbian love scene, but it omits the sexual chemistry between Celie and Suge outside of that scene, making it seem more like that was a one-night stand. Unlike the film, the book makes their flame more obvious. Just pay attention how Celie wants to follow Suge around.
Suge like honey, and now I's just like a bee. Us follow her everywhere, wanna go where she go.
That's the film's subtle way to suggest she's in love.
We didn't really talk about the fact that she was a lesbian. We didn't talk about it because
Until I did my research, I ain't never noticed that before. Another difference between the book and film. The film depicts Suge as vulnerable, as she's in her feelings towards her father, who doesn't approve of her promiscuous lifestyle. Suge is shown struggling as she tries to impress and reconcile with her father. In the novel, Suge is a rebel, and she's free from oppression from any man and pretty unrepentant about it. In the book, the portrayal of Albert is slightly different. Albert is a bit more ruthless in the book. For example,
He beat me when you ain't here.
in the novel, he would beat Celie whether Suge was around or not, unlike in the movie where he was putting on the front like he was Mr. Nice Guy.
I was gonna miss you.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss you too, baby.
In the book, after Celie leaves Albert, the book focuses on Celie's new life as a free woman. Albert does a total 180 and changes into somebody Celie actually becomes friends with. In the film, however, after Celie leaves Albert, it focuses heavily on Albert, portraying him as an alcoholic who is suffering and should be pitied. The author Alice Walker did not like this at all. She expressed her fears by saying, he was almost in every scene, almost in every shot. Sometimes I would worry that it was going to become his story, Mr. Albert's story, not Celie's. Another thing the film did not explain is that Squeak and Harpo's children are at the dinner table scene. And get this, in the book, Grady and Squeak were actually messing around. Yes, Grady was having an affair with Squeak. And that's why she stood up and said, I'm leaving with Celie and Suge. I'm fixing the same. Because she was trying to stay close to Grady.
Man, who gives a boy?
Last but not least, the film doesn't explain as the book does, but Harpo watches his mother die.
His wife dead. She was killed by her boyfriend coming home from church.
Yes, as a child, he witnessed his mother being beat to death by her boyfriend. That explains why Harpo stones Celie when he first sees her. It also explains his passive nature, his reluctance to beat Sophia at first, and his attraction to her being a strong-minded woman that could defend herself from most men.
He could not have made the movie, the book then. He just couldn't have. But he made a damn fine film. He made a really good film with really good people.
Now it's time to answer the big question. If The Color Purple had a remake with an all-white cast, who would star in it? Okay, I'm here on location at the farmhouse that they used for the film. Oh my God, it's breathtaking. I'm starstruck. Whoever redid it, they did the house perfectly. Now, it's on private property, so I dare not, trespass or try to bother them, whatever. But the house is beautiful. If you go further down, you can't see it as well, because it sits on a hill, so. But that's it, man. That's the house I've been looking at for the past 40 years, man. That is a beautiful house. And it's just so neat to be here. Okay, let's not be surprised. There's lots of epic movies that have remakes by different cultures. You got two versions of Steal the Magnolias. You got The Wizard of Oz versus The Wiz. And with this Little Mermaid controversy, people just need to chill. White actors have been playing other races since the beginning of film. Not to mention how Hollywood makes their own versions of other films around the world. So I see no reason why The Color Purple can't be a reboot with all white cast. I'd actually like to see that film being made. So the big question is, who would star in this film? Without further ado, I bring you the trailer.
Cut.
Groundbreaking. Whitewashed.
Harpo, ain't that horse saddled yet? Yes, Harpo. How's it?
Miles Beyond Media presents a breathtaking film when the South began its rise.
Don't you dare touch me!
Celie, ain't that razor sharp enough yet?
Stand back!
Get my shave, don't keep me waiting.
Ella DeGeneres as Celie. Billy Bob Thornton as Mr. Albert Johnson.
I done fixed that mailbox so I can tell if it be messed with.
You understand? Kathy Bates as Sophia.
You told Harpo to beat me.
Adam Sandler as Harpo.
Sophia, that's your pretty name.
Dolly Parton as Suge Avery. The Color of Cream, coming to a theater near you.
Well, you ought to bash Mr. Ted open and think about heaven later.
That concludes our top 10 things you didn't know about the movie The Color Purple. Again, great movie. I think this will always be the cornerstone film for black cinema. 11 nominations for Academy Awards. Even though it didn't win, we all know it was the best picture. And it's never going to lose its theme. It's never going to get old to us. It will always have its magic. Again, I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit that like button, and please, if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification button. I'm going to keep bringing it to you, and I'm not going to bring you no mess. So go ahead and subscribe to me so you won't miss the next video. And let me know what you like. Let me know if you have any questions, or if I got a fact wrong, let me know that. I am so thankful for my support and the success I'm having through this. I'm really excited to bring y'all more videos. I'm going to keep it coming. So y'all stick with me, stay with me, and there'll be more from Miles Beyond Media.
I done fixed that mailbox so I can tell if it be messed with.